November 2nd, 1944. Near the Dutch-German border, Rhineland front. A cold rain slashes sideways across the flooded farmlands as Private Andrew "Mac" McLeod tightens the chin strap of his soaked Mark II helmet. His breath curls into the morning darkness. Somewhere beyond the tree line, muffled artillery thumps like a distant heartbeat. A whistle shrieks. The men of the Canadian 4th and 5th Brigades brace themselves. Packs heavy, rifles slick with mud, stomachs turning from the same sickness that has swept through the battalion for days. Mac takes his first step into the muck and sinks nearly to his knee. Behind him, Sergeant Thomas Rowe mutters, 20 kilometers in this, and half the boys run in fevers. Bloody miracle if any of us reach the line upright. The rain grows harder. Sheets of water pour down from low clouds that seem nailed to the earth. What should have been firm fields have become a drowned wasteland. Every step a suction trap that threatens to pull off boots, twist ankles, or send a man face first into filth. Worse, the sickness has begun to spread. It started after a patrol filled canteens from a stream fed by farm runoff. Within hours, men were doubled over, vomiting, shivering with typhoid-like fevers that made their hands tremble around their Lee Enfield No. 4 rifles. With the medical detachments bogged down miles behind them and stretcher cases already overflowing, the battalion medic could offer little more than iodine tablets and reassurance. Mac tastes metal as he swallows his last iodine pill dry. Up ahead, Lieutenant James C. Elliott halts, lifts his hand, and points toward the horizon where the front lines lie. A smear of smoke and orange flashes. "We move now," he shouts. "No stopping, no falling out. The line needs us." The column trudges forward. Helmets clink. Wet webbing creaks. Mud sucks loudly at each boot. The sound of marching men is swallowed almost instantly by the wind. After an hour, the symptoms worsen. A corporal collapses, gasping, clutching his stomach. Two men haul him up by the armpits while he tries to speak through chattering teeth. Someone hands him a dented steel helmet filled with boiling water, brewed over a small hexamine stove during the last halt. It smells of swamp and rust, but it's the only thing keeping men hydrated. The boiling water trick is a gamble. It kills bacteria, or so they hope, but it also fills the air with the faint scent of marsh rot. Still, they drink. They must. Rain runs into Mac's eyes. His vision blurs. Fever or water, he can't tell. He pushes on anyway. The unit moves in near silence now, each man trapped inside his own misery. Occasional coughs tear through the air. A man retches behind a hedgerow but refuses to stop moving. Their rifles knock against their packs like hollow wooden bells. Suddenly, thunder. No, not thunder. German 88s firing far ahead. The distant crump echoes across the flats. The soldiers straighten instinctively. The march is no longer just misery, it's a countdown. If the front line breaks before they arrive, everything behind them collapses. "Eyes up!" Lieutenant Elliott calls. "We're close to supporting range." Close, but not close enough. A cold gust rips across the column, carrying the smell of cordite and burning farmhouses. The men march faster, driven by urgency more than strength. Fevered legs push through the mud. Coughs turn to groans. A few men vomit into the ditch and rejoin the line without a word. Mac glances sideways and sees a body, a German uniform, half submerged in the mud, washed toward the road by rain runoff. Its hand points upward like it died reaching for help. No one says anything. They march past it. As the column reaches a flooded crossroads, the mud deepens to waist height. The men struggle, slipping shoulder-deep into invisible sinkholes. Every soldier has heard stories of men drowning in the Rhineland mud. Every step risks becoming the last. Sergeant Rowe shouts over the storm, "Keep moving! Don't let the muck take you!" Lightning flashes, revealing a landscape drowned in silver water and black silhouettes of shattered barns. The road to the front line stretches ahead like an endless, broken spine. Mac grips his rifle tighter. They haven't even reached the battle yet. but the war is already trying to kill them. November 2nd, 1944, 0740 hours. The rain eases for only a moment, falling from a downpour to a cold, stinging drizzle. The silence that follows is somehow worse. It lets the men hear the labored breathing around them. Mac wipes his nose on his sleeve. His head feels too heavy for his neck. His heartbeat thumps inside his skull like a slow hammer. Typhoid, or something close to it. No one knows. No one can stop. Lieutenant Elliot raises his binoculars, the lenses instantly fogging. He curses, rubs them on his greatcoat, and scans ahead again. To the east, faint tracer fire arcs across the sky in thin red streaks. "That's the line," Sergeant Rowe mutters, "or what's left of it." A runner splashes through the puddles toward Elliot. Mud flies from his boots as he skids to a halt. "Sir, message from brigade. The Germans pushed into the orchard sector at dawn. Our boys are holding, but barely. You're the closest unit able to reinforce." Elliot nods, jaw clenched. "All right, pass it down. No halts unless someone's dying." The runner hesitates. "Sir, half of them are dying." Elliot doesn't answer. He just keeps marching. The road narrows into a sunken lane bordered by broken willow trees. The mud here is so thick it has its own smell, a sour mix of manure, stagnant water, and decomposing vegetation. Every footstep makes a sickening slurp. A few men begin hallucinating from fever. Private Donnelly swats at invisible flies. Corporal Hughes keeps repeating, "Keep the line dressed! Keep the line!" even when they're marching single file. Mac grips Donnelly's harness and pulls him upright when he stumbles. "Eyes front, Donnelly. Just walk. We all walk." The rain returns in a sudden, violent sheet, as if the sky changed its mind. It drenches everything. It hides everything. It steals heat faster than any bullet. Halfway up a slight rise, the mud becomes treacherous. 3 men slip at once, crashing into the muck, packs first, screaming as the suction clamps around their limbs. Others haul them up with rifle slings and sheer force. Rowe barks, "Use your entrenching tools! Step, plant, pull!" Metal clinks as they use the flat heads of their entrenching shovels like stepping stones, laying them down one after another to spread weight over the sucking mud. Every few meters they retrieve the tools and repeat. It's slow, it's miserable, but it works. For now. A sudden shout echoes from the back of the column. "Medic! Medic!" Elliot turns sharply. "What now?" Through the rain, they see a man kneeling beside Private Lennox, a quiet farm boy from Saskatchewan, now lying flat in the road, eyes rolled back, body shaking. The battalion medic, Corporal R.J. Fowler, pushes through. His kit is nearly empty. The medical truck is 5 miles behind, stuck axle-deep in mud. Fowler checks Lennox's pulse, his forehead, his breathing. "It's fever," he says quietly. "He can't stand." Rowe looks at Elliot, waiting. Elliot's face hardens. "If we leave him here, he dies. If we carry him, everyone slows and the line breaks." The men watch in horrified silence. Fowler slips a canteen into Lennox's trembling hand and whispers, "You hold on, lad. You're going to march with us." Then he looks at Elliot. "I can dose him with iodine and get him on his feet for maybe a kilometer. After that, no promises." Elliot nods once. 2 soldiers haul Lennox upright and loop his arms over their shoulders. His boots drag through the mud as they force him forward. The whole column watches, because they know, in an hour, any one of them could be in his place. As the rain thickens, the horizon flashes with artillery again, closer this time. The ground trembles. Loose water ripples across the road. Mac feels it through his boots. The front line is collapsing faster than expected. Rowe moves up beside Elliot. "Sir, the men can't keep this pace." "I know," Elliot breathes, "but the Germans aren't slowing for us." He looks at the men, pale faces, shaking hands, eyes sunken from fever, and raises his voice over the storm. "Listen up! Every step you take is one more the enemy doesn't. We hold that orchard or the whole division folds, and then there's no Canada left for any of us to go home to." It's not a speech. It's not meant to inspire. It's just the truth. But the men straighten. Their boots sink into the mud, and they keep moving. Because the battle is waiting for them, and they haven't come this far to die on the road. November 2nd, 1944, 09:10 hours. The storm grows heavier still until the sky becomes a dark sheet of rolling steel. Rain pelts the helmets of the Canadian 4th and 5th Brigades with a constant metallic ping, ping, ping. The sound blends with the distant thunder of artillery, a rhythm of misery and approaching violence. Private Mac McLeod wipes foul water from his eyes. His vision swims again, more from fever than rain. Every few steps he feels the ground shift under him, as if the earth itself is trying to swallow him. Ahead, Elliot raises a fist. Halt! The column stops, but the mud does not. A sucking noise echoes through the lane as one of the riflemen, Private Stewart, suddenly drops waist-deep into a hidden sinkhole beside the road. He screams, flailing. The mud drags him down like a living thing. Two men rush, grabbing his arms, but the suction pulls back with terrifying force. "Get ropes! Rifle slings! Anything!" Rowe shouts. Mac scrambles forward with another man, tying two rifle slings together. They throw the line to Stewart, who grabs desperately. The four men heave. The mud resists, pulling harder, sucking harder, as if trying to keep what it has caught. Stewart's face contorts. "Don't let go! Don't let go!" With a final coordinated pull, the soldiers wrench him free, boots ripping out of the sucking pit with a wet, explosive schlock. Stewart collapses on solid ground, trembling violently. Everyone stares at the hole. It looks no different from the rest of the mud. Rowe glances around and growls, "Stay on the path only. This muck buries men." No one argues. They push forward again. The lane opens into a wide, flooded depression. Water up to the thighs in some places, freezing cold. The men step into it without hesitation. There is no alternative. The icy water immediately stiffens muscles, stealing warmth through their wool trousers. Mac gasps as shock slams through his chest. It feels like knives against his skin. Even worse, the water around them is stagnant, contaminated by the same source that caused the outbreak of fever in the first place. Every mouthful of rain dripping from helmet brims risks reinfection. Still, they wade forward. Fowler, the medic, maintains a position near the center of the column, quietly handing out iodine to men who begin coughing blood or trembling uncontrollably. He has only a handful of tablets left. Sergeant Rowe calls back to him. "How long until you're out?" Fowler responds without looking up. "I'm already out, just handing out courage now." The column climbs out of the flooded pit onto a small embankment. Ahead lies a stretch of broken farm road lined with dead cattle, washed against the banks by rising water. Their bodies are bloated, legs sticking upward like pale branches. The stench is indescribable. It mixes with the rain, the mud, the sickness. It becomes a physical thing they walk through. Private Donnelly vomits instantly. Corporal Hughes follows, doubled over. Rowe orders, "Mouths closed, breathe through your sleeves." The men comply. The rain hammers harder, turning the scene into a gray, heaving nightmare. At the crest of a small ridge, they can finally see the distant orchard, now just blackened stumps under drifting smoke. Muzzle flashes flicker like fireflies. The thunder of machine gun bursts rises above the storm. Elliot lowers his binoculars. "We're an hour out," he says quietly. "Maybe less if the ground holds." His voice carries just enough that the nearest squads hear, and the message spreads. One more hour of mud, one more hour of fever, one more hour before the fight they've been marching toward since dawn. Mac forces his legs to keep moving. He can no longer feel his feet. He can no longer feel his fingers on his rifle grip. But he can feel the battle ahead, the pressure, like a giant hand closing around the land. Somewhere in that orchard, Canadians are dying. Somewhere in that orchard, the line is failing. And the men marching here, sick, soaked, half-conscious, are the only reinforcement. Lightning splits the sky again. Elliot raises his voice over the roar of the storm. "Pick it up! Every second we lose, the enemy gains!" The men obey, even those who can barely stand. Even Lennox, being dragged between two soldiers, lifts his head at the sound. They march, because stopping is not an option, because the battle will not wait for them. November 2nd, 1944, 10:05 hours. The storm reaches its full violence. Wind tears across the open fields like a living force, bending broken trees and flinging cold rain sideways. The march shifts from miserable to punishing. Every step forward is a struggle against nature itself. The road becomes a stream, then the stream becomes a river, and the soldiers have no choice but to wade through it. Water splashes against their chests as the column moves into a half-flooded culvert. Helmets bob above the surface as men lift their rifles over their heads to keep the actions dry. The icy shock hits their torsos like a fist. "Jesus, it's freezing!" someone shouts through clenched teeth. Rowe bellows back, "Save your breath, it won't warm you." The swirl of water pulls at their legs. Fevered muscles tremble. A few men nearly lose balance, but hands shoot out to steady them. The Canadians move in a chain, not because they were ordered to, but because instinct demands it. They come out of the water shaking violently, steam rising from their wool coats as body heat tries to escape. Mac coughs until he nearly collapses. Fowler, the medic, hurries to him, forcing a rust-colored canteen into his hand. "Drink, slowly." Mac takes a sip of the boiled helmet water. It's filthy, metallic, and tastes of wet iron, but it keeps him alive. Behind them, Private Lennox collapses again. This time he does not respond to his name. Two soldiers lift him once more, but his legs dangle like ropes. Elliot's jaw tightens. "Carry him! No man stays behind! We all reach the orchard or none of us do!" The men nod grimly. As they continue, the land turns harsher. Low craters filled with black water, shattered barns leaning like broken ribs against the sky, and everywhere the mud. The endless, hungry mud. It sucks at their boots relentlessly. Every step threatens to pull them under. What used to be a march has become a continuous extraction effort. Men hauling each other out of holes, dragging limbs out of suction pits, using entrenching shovels as makeshift stepping boards. "Step, plant, pull!" Rowe roars again. The phrase becomes a rhythm, a lifeline, a chant. Even the sick repeat it under their breath. Ahead, the sky glows orange. The orchard is burning. Machine gun rattle breaks through the storm. Mortar thumps follow. The front line is closer now, painfully close. Too close. Donnelly whispers, "That's our boys. They're still fighting." Mac blinks rain from his eyes. "Then we move faster." The fever has blurred his vision so badly the world looks like it's shaking, but he pushes onward. The men move with a strange, desperate determination, as if the sickness inside them is nothing compared to the urgency waiting at the orchard. The war is calling them, and they answer. At the edge of a waterlogged field, the column suddenly halts. A new sound cuts through the rain. Artillery incoming. Elliot shouts, "Down!" A shell slams into the far end of the field, erupting in a burst of mud and black smoke. The explosion flings water high into the air, raining filthy droplets across the column. Another shell lands closer. Shockwaves ripple through the water. The men throw themselves flat against the mud, breathless. Fever or not, training takes over. Helmets clatter. Rifles are clutched to chests. Every face presses into the foul earth. Then, silence. A long, dreadful silence. Mac lifts his head. The shelling has moved east toward the burning orchard. "It means they're pushing hard," Rowe says quietly. "The Huns want that sector bad." Elliot stands, soaked and muddy, and points his arm like a commander in a storm-tossed painting. "Up! Move! We're nearly there!" The last stretch is the worst. A narrow farm track leads directly toward the orchard. 1 kilometer, maybe less, but the track is covered in bodies, German and Canadian, washed together by the rising water. Their uniforms are indistinguishable under the mud. The column marches between them, boots splashing, breath ragged, eyes hollow. The rain cannot hide the smell. Donnelly whispers, trembling, "God forgive us." Rowe replies, "He will. Now move." At the end of the track, beyond a cluster of drowned bushes, the orchard finally comes into clear view. Black trees, falling branches, flashes of rifle fire, shadows moving desperately in the smoke. Canadian shadows, still holding, barely. Elliot raises his hand and shouts over the storm with every ounce of strength left in his lungs. "Men! Double time! This is it!" And despite the fever, the mud, the sickness, the freezing rain, the men of the 4th and 5th Brigades break into a desperate run, stumbling, sliding, nearly falling, but running. Running toward the battle, running toward their own brothers, running because they have no choice. November 2nd, 1944, 10:42 hours. The orchard looms ahead like a shattered cathedral. Smoke coils between the blackened trees, twisted branches silhouetted by the flicker of gunfire. The thunder of battle drowns the storm now. Machine gun bursts, frantic shouts, the dull whump of mortars striking nearby. Lieutenant Elliot raises his arm, breath steaming in the freezing air. "Spread out! Weapons up!" The column fans into staggered lines, boots splashing as they peel off the flooded track and move into the orchard's edge. Fevered men steady their rifles with trembling hands. Mud-coated uniforms cling to their bodies like wet shrouds. Mac wipes mud from his Lee Enfield's rear sight with a shaking thumb. His fever pounds through his skull, but the sight of the orchard, burning, shaking, screaming, shocks him awake. Ahead, Canadian infantry from the 8th Brigade cling to whatever cover remains, overturned carts, tree stumps, shattered brick walls. They are exhausted, half-starved, and pinned down by German MG-42 fire rattling from the far tree line. A wounded corporal sees Elliot's men arriving and shouts hoarsely through the smoke, "About bloody time! They're coming through the East Rows!" Elliot doesn't hesitate. "4th and 5th Brigades, form line! Give them relief fire!" Rowe echoes him down the line. "Fix bayonets! Ready rifles! Make every round count!" The crack of rifle bolts slices through the storm as men chamber .303 rounds, their fingers slick with rain. The orchard shakes again under a mortar blast. Splinters rain down like wooden shrapnel. Mac raises his rifle and sees them, shadows charging through the smoke between the trees, German infantry, soaked, desperate, pushing to break the orchard before reinforcements arrive. They didn't expect Canadians to appear out of the storm. They didn't expect them to still be standing. They certainly didn't expect them to be charging forward despite being half dead with fever. Elliot roars, "Fire!" A wall of muzzle flashes erupts along the orchard edge. Rifle shots hammer through the rain. MG rounds scream from Canadian Bren guns newly set up on fallen logs. The Germans stagger, scattering for cover, but the Canadians do not stop. They push deeper into the orchard, moving tree to tree, firing from the hip when too close, planting boots that slide on mud slick as oil. Fevered bodies force themselves beyond their limits, driven not by strength, but by necessity. A machine gun nest opens up from behind a collapsed barn at the orchard's far end. The burst cuts through branches, splintering wood, chewing a line across the ground inches from the advancing Canadians. Elliot ducks behind a stump. "Rowe, take a section left. Flank that position." Rowe nods, grabbing 6 men. Mac follows without thinking. Their legs shake, their guts churn, but they sprint, low and fast, weaving through burned rows of apple trees. Mud sucks at their boots, but adrenaline yanks them free. The MG nest keeps firing, unaware of the flanking maneuver. Rowe slides behind a toppled wagon. "Mac! Hughes! With me!" The 3 burst forward, closing the last 20 meters under covering fire from the orchard line. German voices shout in alarm. Rowe leaps into the trench beside the barn, boots skidding. He drives his bayonet first, raw instinct guiding him. Hughes barrels in next, shouting. Mac comes last, firing point blank, ears ringing from the confined blast. Seconds later, the MG falls silent. Rowe signals the orchard line. "Position cleared!" That breaks the enemy's momentum. The remaining German troops falter, shaken by the sudden ferocity of reinforcements who, by all rights, should barely be able to stand. The rain shifts again to a cold drizzle. The storm, like the Germans, seems to lose its strength. In the dim light, wounded Canadians from the beleaguered 8th Brigade begin pulling back behind the newly reinforced line. The orchard belongs to the Allies still. Barely, but enough. Elliot surveys the clearing smoke and shouts to his men, "Hold this sector! Dig in! You've earned a goddamn minute to breathe!" The soldiers collapse behind cover, coughing, shaking, some vomiting from fever, but they are alive. And so is the orchard. A sergeant from the holding brigade limps over, bleeding from the scalp. "You boys sick?" he asks. Rowe laughs a single broken breath. "Sick? March 20 kilometers in a storm while shitting yourself with fever and see how you feel." The sergeant grins despite everything, clapping him on the shoulder. "Well, you got here. That's all that matters." Mac sinks beside a stump, chest heaving, rain dripping from his helmet brim. His hands tremble uncontrollably around his mud-caked rifle. He realizes something quietly miraculous. The fever didn't kill them. The march didn't kill them. The mud didn't kill them. They survived long enough to make a difference. Around him, the orchard smolders. The air stinks of powder, smoke, and wet earth. But the line holds, because sick, half-delirious, freezing, starving men refuse to give up. Because they marched. Because they fought. Because they were Canadian infantry in the Rhineland, and nothing stopped them. Not even typhoid fever. Not even the storm. Not even hell itself.